Hello, is anyone listening? Hey, this is JohnBerry555, and welcome to my review of Star Wars Andor Season 1, Episode 9, Nobody's Listening. So, that's very much the theme of the episode, that nobody is listening. Well, some people are listening, but the people in power aren't listening. So, because there's the two main stories going on. Actually, there's actually three. You got Andor in the prison, you got Mon Mothma in the political intrigue, and then you also have the ISB investigation into the Rebel Network. And it's clear the ISB is now listening to the ISB, so at least they're listening to themselves, but they're not really listening to what's going on, because they don't realize by pushing the Rebels, they're probably going to embolden the Rebels, make the Rebels more likely to rebel. They may be listening, but they're not paying attention. But you go looking at with Andor and with Mon Mothma, what's going on for them is like truly very few people are listening in the prison. The guards are not listening to the prisoners, because that's what, and that connects back to how Andor basically, Cassian Andor earlier on is like, hey, the Empire doesn't care about us, so why would they pay attention to us except for when we cause trouble for them? Very much like, only when you get caught does the Empire actually pay attention. Meanwhile, with Mon Mothma, she's speaking in the Senate, trying to get people to listen, but most of them don't care. There's a few of them who do, but none of them probably actually care about, making the galaxy better. They just want to live off the station. The Empire is not listening to what's going on. And think of this, Mon Mothma is saying some pretty inflammatory stuff in the Senate when you really think about it. Stuff that could undermine the Empire. But nobody's listening. Sure, maybe the ISB is paying somewhat attention to her, but all the stuff we're seeing with the ISB, she's not even on their radar. Maybe some higher ups are, but she's not being paid attention to. Nobody's literally listening to her and look for her and we don't see the Empire pay attention, listen to her until much later in the timeline. Couple years, 2 years, I think, maybe 3. We saw that actually in Star Wars Rebels. But here in the prison, like, the Empire is not listening. They don't care about the people there, so they don't listen, they don't pay attention to them. They only care about is stuff getting done and making sure that no prisoner gets wise to the fact that they're not actually releasing anybody. And we do find that out, and that's very neat with Andy Serkis's character, who he's basically the manager of the cell block system thingy that Cassian is in, and all that. But you can also see Cassian is taking more of a leadership role, because there's actually one instance where Andy Serkis's character loses control, and it's Cassian who smooths things over temporarily, and all that. And there's other little things here too. And then at the very end, after the old gentleman who was supposed to be only 40 shifts away, so that's still 40 shifts. That's a long time. Though the closest any of them to these. Well, he has a massive stroke, and so when the medic comes, who happens to be also a prisoner, by the way, euthanizes him, that's what makes Andy Serkis' character to realize he can't continue operating under the system the way it was. And the question Cassian has been asking him this entire time, basically, how many guards are there? He finally answers that. After basically saying, keep your head down and all that, just, wanting to work in the system, climb it and all that for his own benefit. But the fact that somebody he saw who was getting close to being released didn't make it, that's in a way what changed his mind. Like, yeah, the Empire is not going to let us out. Especially because that's also when they confirmed the rumor, because the medic is obviously one person who gets to travel around a bit more. But a medtech, not medic, I think is the term they use. But regardless, confirms what happened on level 2, because essentially during one of the shift changes, they are passing messages from each other, so there's basically rumors going on, and something happened on level 2. There was a huge power surge. They knew something happened. They knew there were rumors about potentially somebody, maybe the entire level 2, all those prisoners are being killed, but they didn't know for sure. But the medtech confirmed it. So that, plus the old man who was the closest to being released, dying, that's what changed Andy Serkis' character's mind. And so I suspect him, Cassian, and I forget his name, but he actually appeared in Rogue One, so we know he's surviving. I have a feeling they're going to be the ones who are probably going to be doing a lot more of the planning on what to do. we're going to get a prison break, obviously. Andor needs to be out by the time of Rogue One, without a doubt. So we're going to get that. And I suspect Andy Serkis' character will not make it. I just have a feeling we know at least 2 of these characters will make it out and join the Rebel Alliance. We don't know how many others. But I have a feeling Andy Serkis' character, he won't make it. Because I have a feeling he'd be like, I just know why, but I have this feeling that after all this time, like, it's trying to save himself, in other words, climb the ladder of the fascist regime of the Empire without thinking he could work within the system when it's clearly not going to work. I wonder if he's going to be like, I wonder if he's going to take the opportunity to be like, serve as a distraction or do something so that way everyone else can get away. It's just a thought I had, I could be wrong, but it's something to keep an eye out, I think, in the next episode. And then, of course, we get some other things with Mon Mothma's political intrigue, how, clearly the Empire is not really paying attention, but we get some good news. Her cousin's here to visit, who happens to be Val from the heist arc and all that. I mean, so I do like that little connection there, and showing that Mon Mothma does have family who actually does support her rebelling against the authority of the Empire. Because Mon Mothma, much like Andy Serkis' character, is trying to work within the system, but it's much clearer that she knows that the system, she does know that she can't fully work in the system. She knows that the system is designed not to work. But in some way, she's like, what can I do within the system so to try to make things better? But I think she's always known in the back of her mind that the system will never work out. She can't work within it. I think she knew that in the back of her head. But I think it's only now that she's starting to truly realize that, yeah, the system just, I can't do it anymore, kind of thing. I have a feeling that's the mentality that she's in her mind space. But yeah, anything else I need to discuss? Mothma also is going to have to probably take a loan from an unreputable source to help cover up the fact that she's giving money to the rebel cause and all that. So that's going to be interesting how that plays out. But yeah, we also know that the ISB is getting closer. They've already connected Cassian to the heist on Adari. So they've done that. They are torturing, and this is actually probably some of the most visible torture we've seen in Star Wars. Literally, Bix is literally tortured using audio, and we don't get to hear what it is, but it's described to us. Screams and cries of dying children, basically. It's basically audio torture. No chemicals, no electrical, just pure psychological horror. And that really just shows how evil the Empire is, because, Dedra, she's like, yep, this is what it is. If you don't talk, we're going to subject you to this. Meanwhile, the scientist, doctor person who's going to be mystery is that he's creepy as fuck. And I'm going to use that word because he is creepy AF. He knows exactly what's going on. And the way he describes it is like he's taking joy in describing it. The Empire is full of bad people. I don't know if you saw, but over the last week, the actress who plays Dedra made a statement talking about how Gilroy wrote Dedra to essentially to show that in a fascist system, women can become corrupt just like men. It doesn't matter the gender. Anyone can be corrupt if they work within the system to to work in the system for their own personal benefit and all that stuff. So that does connect with what Andy Serkis' character and Mon Mothma are doing. But Andy Serkis' character, he's more like, keep his head down to not get in trouble. Mon Mothma is like, how can I work within the system to actually, right the wrongs? And both those characters are clearly seeing that's not going to work. But Dedra, she's not seeing that because she's working within the system for her own power, for her own personal power and prestige. She's not going to come to realization because the system's working for her and has corrupted her to her core, so she doesn't care. We initially, as fans, were rooting for her because, strong woman working against a patriarchal authority. Yeah, she's just right in there along with them. The only thing was, it's the cut sword nature of the Empire to butt heads. And we all kind of knew it, but we all because, being the main female bad guy, we automatically started rooting for her, even though she was in opposition to everything else that we would be rooting for, Andor and Mon Mothma. which is quite interesting. But I think that just shows how effectively they wrote her as a human character. A human character who was faced with basically what seemed to be systemic problems that prevented him from getting ahead. Turns out the systemic problems were just, corruption, were just more, not necessarily corruption, but more imperial incompetence and imperial power struggles rather than anything else. But still, it does show, in regards to the system, anyone can be corrupted, especially when they're looking out for themselves only and don't see the faults in the system like Mom Musma or Andy Serkis' character did and have seen, and all that. And of course, circling back to other topics about going on, Cyril. He's still there. Apparently, with the ISB for his cooperation, they wiped his slate clean, so he was able to get a promotion at work. That's good. But he is also showing that he's not just, a guy who wants to be respected. But think of this. He has such social ineptitude. Being interrogated by the SB was seen as human connection to him. He's essentially now stalking Deja. Who knows how that's going to work out? I have a feeling for both of them, not good at all. But definitely show the kind of guy Cyril is. He's not a good guy. He may eventually come to butt heads with the Empire, but it's not going to be because he doesn't believe in the Empire or believe in the system, but because the system's not working for him personally, because he's not getting the benefits. He wants to climb the ranks of the Empire. He wants to be noticed. He wants to establish order. But what will happen if he's not getting what he wanted? Will he lash out at the Empire because he's not getting what he wants in the system? He's that kind of guy. He's probably the kind of guy that if he lived in America, he would definitely own a gun. It would have both, a Don't Tread on Me flag, a Confederate flag, and probably even a Trump flag. He's probably that kind of guy who says he's an alpha male and nothing, and he's a tough guy and all that. But when it comes down to it, he's not anything like that. He's a mama's boy who is coddled and whose mother is only using him to climb the social ladder herself. And so the minute things get tough, he's either going to break down or he's going to make a rash decision that's going to destroy his life. He's not a good guy. He's the kind of guy who will get sucked down rabbit holes and end up believing in conspiracy theories. That's the kind of guy I'm getting the impression that Cyril is. He may eventually be in opposition to the Empire if he's not getting what he wants, but I don't think that's going to happen because he thinks he can get what he wants. So, it could be very interesting to see, but the Empire might see him as a threat because he's not towing the proper line properly. He's not in the system enough for them. I just got a real feeling that he's going to end up somehow in opposition to the Empire to help the Empire, if that makes any weird sense. But he's not truly helping the Empire, but he's truly going to be helping himself to achieve power in his own life. His mother wants power, and he's willing to live vicariously through him for that. He's willing to stalk an ISB officer just to, creepily say, thank you for clearing my record and getting me a promotion. He's not a good guy. I can easily see him being the kind of guy who will, if things don't go his way, lash out violently. And because he's never had the proper support structure. Probably literally being the corporals was probably the best support structure he ever had. And essentially by wanting more, he destroyed probably what was the closest thing he had to a stable social life. Which is quite sad when you think about it. That if he just took a step back and got some therapy and reevaluated his life, he needs Obi-Wan Kenobi to tell him to go home and rethink his life. But that's not going to happen to him. He's going to make a decision that's going to help the rebels and hurt the Empire because of him trying to get ahead himself. And him trying to get what he thinks he is owed. Even though, by all accounts, he's not owed anything. He didn't save any lives. He actually made things worse overall for everyone, Empire and Rebel alike, already. He thinks he's owed something, but when it comes down to it, I don't think he's actually owed anything besides a better home life. That's all he's owed, because then maybe he actually can make something good of his life, but that won't happen given his environment, essentially the fact that he wants power. He wants to be respected. He doesn't want to earn that respect, he wants to take that respect and that power. That's the kind of guy he seems to be from my perspective. I could be totally wrong, but yeah, he would totally be out there chanting, lock her up back in 2016. I have a feeling he's that kind of guy. But anyhow, that's where I'm going to conclude this review. I'm sure I just angered a bunch of people online, but you know what? engagement. That is engagement, and they can play in my comment section down below. But speaking of comment section, let me know, what did you think of this episode? Do you agree with my conclusions? Do you disagree? I would love to hear from you and have a civil debate about all of this. And oh, I can't believe I even forgot this, but another neat little thing I picked up on is Mom Monster's husband and parent is so not connected with basically his wife's cousin's life that he doesn't even know that she's not into guys. That shows how disconnected. He just wants to live in luxury and all that. But okay, that was just a little thing there. But that also shows how he's totally fine with being in the system, the fascist system of the empire. And as long as he's comfortable, he doesn't really care about anyone else other than himself. But that is actually where I'm going to conclude this video. As I said already, let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think? Do you agree with my conclusions and all of that? And also feel free to check out the links down below and to subscribe and follow the channel if you have not yet done so, and check out my social media, and be sure to like and upvote the video and share it out on the socials. And as always, have a good day, good night, wherever you are. May the force be with you always.